I didn't plan to work that night. The agency called me 3 hours before the event. Emergency replacement. Black tie gala at a private estate in Pyeongchang. The kind of neighborhood where security gates have security gates. Where silence costs more than noise ever could. I needed the money, so I said yes. The uniform they gave me was crisp, black, fitted perfectly even though they'd never measured me. Like they knew. Like they'd been expecting someone exactly my size. The fabric smelled faintly of lavender and something else. Something metallic underneath. I didn't ask. The estate sat behind walls so high I couldn't see the top floor. Just marble and glass cutting into the winter sky. The driveway curved like a question mark. Inside, everything gleamed. Floors so polished I could see my reflection walking beneath me. Chandeliers that looked like frozen waterfalls. Silence that felt expensive. They told me to stay in the ballroom. Serve champagne. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't make eye contact unless necessary. Smile, but not too much. I understood. Before we go any further, where are you watching from right now? Because what I'm about to tell you happened in a place where the rules are different. Where one wrong look can erase you. And I need you to understand, I'm not exaggerating. The guests arrived in waves of black wool and diamond glitter. Men in tailored suits that cost more than my rent for a year. Women with faces so smooth they looked carved. Everyone moved like they were being watched, because they were, always. I learned fast that this wasn't a celebration. It was a performance. The servers moved in synchronized silence. No one bumped into anyone. No glass clinked too loud. We were shadows with champagne trays, ghosts in black uniforms. I watched the others, copied their posture, the slight bow, the invisible presence. But I felt it immediately, eyes on me. Not curious eyes. Calculating ones. I was the only black server in the room, maybe the only black person in the entire estate. My skin caught the chandelier light differently, made me visible when I was supposed to disappear. I kept my head down, moved between clusters of guests offering champagne in crystal flutes. Most people took glasses without looking at me. Some looked through me. One older man stared for 3 full seconds before his wife touched his arm and he turned away. That's when I saw him. He stood near the far wall beside a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the garden, taller than everyone around him. Younger too, maybe early 30s. Black suit, no tie, dark hair pushed back from his face. He wasn't talking to anyone. Wasn't drinking. Just standing there with his hands in his pockets, watching the room like he owned it. Because he did. I didn't know his name yet. Didn't need to. Power has a frequency. You feel it before you see it. The way people moved around him without getting too close. The way conversations lowered when he shifted his weight. The way no one turned their back to him completely. His eyes passed over me once. Dark, unreadable. Then away. I exhaled. A woman in a red dress approached him. She said something I couldn't hear. He nodded once. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. He didn't smile back. She walked away quickly, her heels clicking like a countdown. I moved to the other side of the room. That's when I saw the little girl. She sat in an ornate chair near the grand staircase, surrounded by women who cooed at her but didn't touch her. She couldn't have been more than 2 years old. Round face. Dark, serious eyes. A white dress that looked like it cost more than my car. Her hair was pulled into 2 small buns on either side of her head, tied with white ribbons. She looked miserable, not crying, not fussing, just empty. Like she'd learned already that crying didn't help, that no one would come. One of the women offered her a glass of juice. The girl stared at it but didn't take it. Another woman tried to make her smile, waving her fingers. The girl blinked slowly, like she was watching something very far away. I shouldn't have cared, but something about her pulled at me. The stillness, the resignation. I'd seen it before in children who'd learned too early that the world was cold. I moved closer, pretending to arrange empty glasses on my tray. The women around her were talking over her head about winter fashion and plastic surgeons in Gangnam. The girl sat perfectly still, her small hands folded in her lap like she'd been trained. That's when her eyes found mine. Dark, direct, unwavering. She stared at me the way children do before they learn it's rude. The way they look when they're trying to figure something out. I smiled at her, just a little. Not enough for anyone else to notice. She didn't smile back. But she didn't look away either. One of the women noticed. Her conversation stopped mid-sentence. She glanced at me, then at the little girl, then back at me. Her expression shifted. Not angry, confused, like she'd witnessed something impossible. I moved away quickly, back into the flow of champagne and murmured conversations. But I felt the girl's eyes follow me. The night continued in layers of tension I didn't fully understand. Guests came and went. Some disappeared into private rooms upstairs and didn't come back. Others stood in corners having conversations that looked like negotiations. Money never appeared, but I knew it was changing hands. Promises, threats, agreements sealed with handshakes that lasted 1 second too long. And always in the center of it all, him, the man by the window. He moved occasionally, spoke to a few people. Each conversation lasted less than a minute. People approached him like subjects before a king. He barely acknowledged them. A nod, a single word. They walked away either relieved or terrified. I learned later his name was Han Junwoo, head of the Han family. One of the 3 most powerful families in Seoul's underworld. The kind of man whose name you didn't say out loud unless you had to. Notice how every gesture matters. How people move around power without ever touching it directly. I didn't understand it then, but I was learning. I was refilling glasses near the staircase when I heard it. A small sound, not a cry, a whimper, soft, almost swallowed by the music and conversation. I turned. The little girl was still in her chair, but now she was alone. The women had drifted away, bored. She sat there with her hands in her lap, staring at nothing. Her bottom lip trembled. Not like she was about to cry, like she was holding it in. Like she'd been holding it in for hours. I shouldn't have done it, but I walked over. I knelt down beside her chair, low enough that we were eye level. Up close, I could see how tired she looked. Dark circles under her eyes. Her white dress had a small stain near the hem. Her ribbons were coming loose. "Hey," I whispered. She turned her head slowly toward me. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer, just stared at me with those dark, serious eyes. I smiled again. "You look like you need a break from all this." Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say something but had forgotten how. I glanced around. No one was watching us. Everyone was focused on the man by the window, who was now speaking to an older gentleman in a gray suit. Their conversation looked tense. I reached out slowly and adjusted one of her ribbons that had come undone. She didn't flinch, didn't pull away, she just watched my hands. "There," I said softly. "Better." And then she did something that changed everything. She reached out and wrapped her small fingers around my wrist. Not hard, not scared, just holding on. My breath caught. Her skin was warm, her grip surprisingly strong. She stared at my hand like she was memorizing it. Then she looked up at me with an expression I couldn't name. Longing, maybe, or recognition. "Mama," she whispered. The word was so soft I almost didn't hear it. But I did, and so did everyone else. The room didn't go silent all at once. It was gradual, like a wave moving outward from where we knelt. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. The music kept playing, but it felt wrong now, out of place. I looked up. Han Junwoo was staring directly at me. His expression hadn't changed, but something in his eyes had sharpened, focused, like a predator that had just noticed movement in the grass. The little girl, his daughter, I realized now, tightened her grip on my wrist. "Mama," she said again, louder this time. Someone gasped. I tried to pull my hand away gently, but she held on. Her eyes filled with something desperate, like she was afraid I'd disappear. "Sweetheart, I'm not," I started. "Mama," her voice cracked, and then she started to cry, not loud, not dramatic, just tears rolling down her cheeks in silence, her small body shaking. But she didn't let go of my wrist. I froze. Han Junwoo moved. He crossed the room in long, silent strides. People parted without him asking. His focus never left us, never left me. I should have stood up, should have apologized, should have backed away. But the little girl was crying and I couldn't make myself pull away from her. He stopped 3 feet from us. Up close, he was taller than I'd thought. His face was unreadable. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that revealed nothing. He looked at his daughter first, then at me, then at my wrist, still held in her small hand. The silence was suffocating. Sir, I'm so sorry, I started. He held up one hand. I stopped talking. He crouched down slowly, bringing himself to our level. His daughter's crying quieted slightly, but she didn't let go of me. She looked at him with the same empty expression she did all night. Seo-jin, he said quietly. His daughter didn't respond. Seo-jin, he repeated, firmer. She turned her head toward him but said nothing. He reached out and gently tried to take her hand from my wrist. She pulled away from him and pressed closer to me, burying her face against my shoulder. Mama, she whimpered into my uniform. Something flickered across Han Junwoo's face. Not anger, something colder. Calculation. He stared at me for a long moment, then he stood up. Come with me, he said, not a request. My heart hammered against my ribs. Sir, I didn't mean to, now. The word was quiet, but it cut through everything. I looked down at Seo-jin. She was still holding on to me, her face pressed against my shoulder. I could feel her tears soaking through the fabric. Slowly, carefully, I stood up. She came with me, her arms wrapping around my neck. She was heavier than she looked. Solid. Real, Han Junwoo turned and walked toward a hallway that branched off from the ballroom. He didn't look back to see if I was following. I followed, because what else could I do? The hallway was quieter, colder. The marble floors gleamed under recessed lighting. We passed closed doors and empty corridors. I could still hear the music from the ballroom, but it was fading, becoming distant. He stopped at a door at the end of the hall and opened it. Inside was an office, dark wood, leather chairs, a massive desk covered in papers and a laptop. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with books that looked too perfect to have been read. A window overlooking the garden where snow had started to fall. He gestured for me to enter. I stepped inside, still holding Seo-jin. She had stopped crying but hadn't let go. He closed the door behind us. The sound of it clicking shut felt final. He walked to his desk and leaned against it, arms crossed. His expression was still unreadable, but his eyes never left us. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maya," I said quietly. "Maya Thompson." He nodded slowly, like he was filing that information away. "How long have you worked for the agency?" "Tonight's my first job with them." "First job." He repeated it like he was tasting the words. "And you just happened to be here." I didn't know how to answer that. He looked at his daughter, still clinging to me. "She's never done this before." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "She doesn't speak." He said it flatly, matter of fact. "She hasn't said a word in 8 months. Not since her mother died." The air left my lungs. "She's seen therapists, doctors, child psychologists." His voice was emotionless, like he was reciting a grocery list. "They all say the same thing, trauma, selective mutism. She'll speak when she's ready." He pushed off the desk and walked closer. "And tonight," he said quietly, "she spoke to you." I didn't know what to say. He stared at me for a long moment, then at Seo-jin, then back at me. "Sit," he said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs. I hesitated. "Sit," I sat. Seo-jin adjusted herself in my lap, curling against me like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Her breathing had evened out. She wasn't crying anymore, just holding on. Han Junwoo sat in the chair across from me. He leaned back, fingers steepled in front of his face, watching us with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "Tell me about yourself," he said. "There's nothing to tell. You're not just anything." His voice was quiet but absolute. "My daughter called you Mama." "That's not nothing." I swallowed hard. "I work 3 jobs. I moved to Seoul 6 months ago for graduate school, but the funding fell through. I've been trying to save up enough to either continue or go home. Tonight was supposed to be easy money." "Where's home?" "Chicago," he nodded slowly. "Family, my mom, 2 brothers. Father, not in the picture." His eyes narrowed slightly. "You're alone here." It wasn't a question. "Yes." He was silent for a long moment, his gaze moving between me and Seo-jin. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest. Steady, calm, like she felt safe. And that terrified me more than anything, because I understood what he was thinking before he said it. "I want to hire you," he said finally. My stomach dropped. "Sir, I don't think, not as a server." He leaned forward. "As her nanny." "No. No, I can't. She responds to you. She spoke to you. She hasn't done that for anyone else. I'm not qualified. I don't have experience with. I don't care about qualifications." His voice hardened. I care about results. And the result is sitting in your lap right now, calm for the first time in months. I looked down at Seojin. Her eyes were closed now, her breathing deep and even. She'd fallen asleep. I can't, I whispered. Yes, he said quietly, you can. You don't understand. I'm leaving Korea as soon as I save enough. I can't commit to. I'll pay you 5 million won a month. I stopped breathing. That was more than I made in 6 months combined from all 3 jobs. Plus room and board here, your own suite, meals provided. Full benefits. I can't just, you can. He stood up. You will. The way he said it wasn't threatening. It was worse than that. It was certainty. Like he'd already decided and reality would simply bend to accommodate him. She needs you, he said, looking at his daughter. For the first time, something almost human flickered in his eyes. And I need her to be okay. I wanted to say no. I wanted to stand up, hand him his daughter, and walk out of that house and never look back. But when I looked down at Seojin, sleeping peacefully for maybe the first time in months, I felt something crack open inside me. 1 month, I heard myself say. Trial basis. If it doesn't work, it will work. 1 month, I repeated firmly. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. You start tomorrow. I'll have someone collect your things from wherever you're staying. I haven't agreed to. Yes, you have. And he was right. I had. He walked to the door and opened it. Someone will show you to the guest room. You can put Seojin to bed there tonight. Her nanny's suite is being prepared. Wait, tonight? I thought. He looked back at me with those dark, unreadable eyes. You're not leaving this house with my daughter attached to you like that. And I'm not separating her from you when she's finally calm. He called someone on his phone. A moment later, a woman in her 50s appeared. She looked at me holding Seojin without expression. Show Miss Thompson to the East Wing guest room, he said. Make sure she has everything she needs. The woman nodded and gestured for me to follow. I stood slowly, careful not to wake Seojin. She stirred slightly but didn't wake up. As I walked past Han Junwoo, he spoke quietly. My daughter doesn't trust easily, Miss Thompson. The fact that she trusts you means something. Don't make me regret this. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. I followed the woman down another hallway, up a flight of stairs, through corridors that all looked the same. The guest room was larger than my entire apartment. A king bed with white linens, a sitting area, a bathroom with marble everything. The woman showed me Seojin's pajamas, which had already been brought up. Then she left without a word. I stood there in the silence, holding a sleeping child who'd called me Mama, in a house that felt more like a fortress, working for a man whose eyes held more secrets than I could count. And I realized with absolute certainty that I'd just made either the best or worst decision of my life. I couldn't tell which yet, but I was about to find out. What would you do if you were here? If a child who'd stopped speaking suddenly called you Mama? Would you run? Or would you stay? I should have run, but I stayed. And that was my first mistake. The morning came too fast. I woke up to find Seojin still curled against me, her small hand fisted in my shirt. Daylight filtered through curtains I didn't remember closing. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The gala. The word. The man with dark eyes who decided my future in under 5 minutes. I heard a soft knock on the door. The same woman from last night entered carrying a tray. Coffee, toast, fruit arranged like art. She set it on the side table without looking at me. Mr. Han would like to see you in his study at 9, she said in English with barely an accent. Seojin's breakfast will be brought up shortly. I don't even know where his study is, I said quietly, trying not to wake the child in my arms. Someone will fetch you. She left as silently as she'd entered. I looked down at Seojin. Her eyes were open, staring at me with that same serious expression, like she was checking to make sure I was real. Good morning, I whispered. She didn't respond, just watched me. Are you hungry? Nothing. I sat up slowly, bringing her with me. She didn't let go. It was like she was afraid that if she did, I'd disappear. Another knock. A younger woman entered with a tray of food clearly meant for a toddler. Cut fruit, soft rice, soup in a small bowl. She set it down and left just as quickly. I tried to set Seojin down so she could eat, but her grip tightened. Hey, I said softly. I'm not going anywhere, I promise. She stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly, reluctantly, she loosened her hold. I moved to the tray and brought it to the bed. "Can you eat for me?" She looked at the food, then at me, then back at the food. I picked up the spoon and held it out to her. She took it with small hands and brought a bite of rice to her mouth. Chewed mechanically. Swallowed. Like eating was just another task to complete. I watched her, my chest tight. This child had learned to shut down, to close off, to stop expecting anything from anyone. And somehow I'd cracked that open. I didn't know if that was good or terrifying. At exactly 9, a man in a dark suit appeared at the door. Young, expressionless. He gestured for me to follow without speaking. Seo Jin immediately reached for me. I picked her up, and she wrapped herself around me like a koala bear. The man's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. We walked through the house in daylight, and I finally saw it clearly. Everything was expensive but cold, beautiful but empty, like a museum. Servants moved through hallways like ghosts. No one made eye contact. No one spoke unless necessary. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress pretending to be one. The study was on the second floor, facing the garden. The man opened the door and gestured for me to enter. Han Junwoo sat behind his desk, working on his laptop. He looked up when we entered. His eyes went to his daughter first, still clinging to me, then to me. "Thank you, Minho," he said to the man who'd escorted us. Minho bowed slightly and left, closing the door behind him. Silence. Han Junwoo stood and walked around his desk. He was dressed differently today. Black turtleneck. Black slacks. He looked like he hadn't slept, but his eyes were sharp. "Did she eat?" he asked. "Some," I said. "Not much." He nodded like he'd expected that. He walked closer and looked at Seo Jin. She turned her face away from him, pressing it into my neck. Something tightened in his jaw. "Seo Jin," he said quietly. She didn't respond. He reached out to touch her hair. She flinched. His hand stopped midair. For a moment his mask slipped. I saw pain there, raw and real. Then it was gone, locked away behind that unreadable expression. He let his hand drop. "We need to discuss terms," he said, his voice professional again. "Okay." He walked to a table near the window where papers were already laid out. A contract. 5,000,001 monthly. Paid on the 1st. Room and board included. Your suite is in the west wing, next to Seo Jin's room. You'll have access to the entire house except the 3rd floor and the east wing basement. Those areas are private. I didn't ask what was in those areas. Your responsibilities are simple. Care for Seo Jin, keep her safe, help her, adjust. Adjust to what? He looked at me. To life without her mother. The weight of that statement hung in the air. You'll have weekends off if you want them, though I suspect Seo Jin won't make that easy. He glanced at his daughter, still attached to me. If you need anything, staff will provide it. If there are problems, you come to me directly. What kind of problems? Any kind. He picked up a pen and held it out to me. Sign here and here. I looked at the contract. It was in Korean and English. The terms were exactly as he'd stated, but something about it felt permanent, binding in a way that had nothing to do with the legal language. What if I want to leave after the month? I asked. Then you leave, just like that, he paused. But you won't. You seem very sure. I am. I stared at him, trying to read something in his face, but there was nothing, just that cold certainty. I took the pen, I signed. He took the contract and countersigned it. Then he filed it away in his desk. Your things are already in your suite, he said. Minho collected them this morning. You didn't even wait for me to agree. I told you. I knew you would. He walked back to his desk and pulled out a phone. Black, expensive looking. This is yours. It has my number, Minho's number, and the main house line. If anything happens with Seo Jin, you call me immediately. I took the phone. There are security protocols, he continued. You don't leave the grounds without informing Minho. If you go anywhere with Seo Jin, you take a driver. No exceptions. Why? He looked at me like I'd asked why water was wet. Because this family has enemies, Miss Thompson. And my daughter is valuable. The way he said valuable sent chills down my spine. Do you understand? He asked. Yes. Good. He sat back down at his desk. You can go. Minho will show you to your suite. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Miss Thompson! I looked back. Thank you, he said quietly, for staying. It was the first real thing he'd said since I'd met him. I nodded and left. The suite was bigger than any apartment I'd ever lived in. Bedroom, sitting room, bathroom with a tub large enough to swim in, walk-in closet, and a door that connected to Seojin's room. My things, my sad collection of second-hand clothes and toiletries, looked pathetic arranged in that massive closet. I set Seojin down on the couch in the sitting room. She immediately tried to climb back into my lap. "Hold on, sweetheart," I said gently. "Let me just—" I trailed off because I didn't know what came next. I'd never been a nanny, never taken care of a child for more than a few hours. And this wasn't just any child. This was a traumatized toddler who'd stopped speaking, whose mother had died, whose father was a goddamn mafia boss. What was I doing? Seojin tugged on my hand. I looked down at her. She was staring at me with those huge dark eyes, and I saw it again. That desperate need, that fear that I'd disappear. I sat down and pulled her into my lap. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." She pressed her face against my chest and held on, and I realized something that made my blood run cold. She wasn't attached to me because I was special. She was attached to me because I was the first person in months who'd actually seen her, really seen her. And that broke something in me. The days that followed developed a strange rhythm. I learned the unspoken rules of the house quickly. Speak only when necessary. Don't ask questions. Don't make eye contact with guests who came and went at odd hours. Don't comment on the men who stood guard at every entrance. Don't notice the conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. I learned that Seojin's room was a princess nightmare. Pink and white and frilly, like someone had tried to make it look like a child's room without understanding what children actually needed. She had toys she never played with, books she never read, a bed she refused to sleep in. She slept with me every night, curled against my side, her hand always fisted in my shirt. I learned that mealtimes were battles. She'd eat if I fed her, sometimes. She'd drink if I held the cup. She wouldn't sit in the formal dining room. Too big, too empty, too many memories, maybe. I learned that Han Junwoo watched us, not obviously, but I'd catch him standing in doorways, see him in the garden when we walked there. He never approached, never interrupted, just watched with that unreadable expression. I learned that the staff thought I was insane. I heard them whispering in Korean when they thought I couldn't hear. The older woman who'd shown me to my room, Mrs. Lim, I learned, spoke to me in careful, measured tones. Like I was fragile or dangerous. I couldn't tell which. I learned that Seojin still didn't speak. She'd said mama that night at the gala and nothing since. But she communicated in other ways. Small tugs on my hand. Pointing. Facial expressions so subtle I had to learn to read them like a new language. She'd shake her head no. Nod yes. Pull me toward things she wanted. Push away things she didn't. And slowly, very slowly, something in her began to thaw. On the fourth day, she smiled. We were in the garden. It had snowed overnight, and everything was white and pristine. I'd bundled her in a coat and hat and boots, and we'd walked through the paths between perfectly trimmed hedges. I'd bent down and scooped up snow, forming it into a ball. She watched with interest. "Want to try?" I'd asked, holding it out. She'd looked at the snowball, then at me, then back at the snow. Then she'd reached out with her small hands and touched it. The cold made her pull back fast. Her eyes widened. I laughed. And she smiled, just a little, barely there, but real. My chest had tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. That night, Han Junwoo came to the suite. I just put Seojin down, or rather, she'd finally fallen asleep on the couch after fighting it for an hour. I was watching her sleep when I heard the knock. I opened the door. He stood there still in his work clothes, tie loosened. He looked tired. "Is she asleep?" he asked quietly. "Yes," he nodded. "May I come in?" I stepped aside. He entered silently and walked to where Seojin was sleeping. He stood there for a long moment just looking at her. His expression was softer than I'd ever seen it, almost human. "She smiled today," I said quietly. He looked at me sharply. "What?" "In the garden, when we were playing in the snow, she smiled." Something flickered across his face. Relief maybe, or pain, or both. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I didn't do anything, you did everything." He turned to face me fully. "She hasn't smiled in 8 months, not once." And you've been here 4 days. I didn't know what to say to that. He walked to the window overlooking the garden. Her mother died in a car accident. The doctors said it was instantaneous. No pain, but Seo Jin was in the car. She saw everything. My stomach dropped. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Physically, she was fine, but mentally, he trailed off. She stopped speaking, stopped eating unless forced, stopped responding to anyone. I hired the best therapists, tried everything. Nothing worked. He turned back to me. And then you showed up, he said, and she called you Mama. I'm not trying to replace. I know, his voice was firm, but she needs a mother figure, and for reasons I don't understand, she chose you. Silence stretched between us. There's something you need to understand, Miss Thompson. His voice dropped lower. My world is dangerous. The people I deal with, the business I run, none of it is safe. Seo Jin's mother knew that. She accepted it. And it killed her anyway. He took a step closer. I'm telling you this because you need to know what you're part of now. You're not just a nanny. You're part of this family. And that comes with protections but also risks. What kind of risks? The kind where people might try to hurt you to hurt me. Where leaving this house means having guards. Where trust is more valuable than gold and betrayal is paid for in blood. The way he said it wasn't dramatic. It was factual, like he was explaining the weather. If you want to leave, he said quietly, now is the time before you're too deep, before Seo Jin is too attached. I'll pay you for the month and let you go, no consequences. He meant it. I could see it in his eyes. This was my chance. My out, I looked at Seo Jin sleeping on the couch, her face peaceful for once, her small hand reaching out like she was looking for me even in sleep. I'm not leaving, I said. Han Junwoo studied me for a long moment. Then you need to understand the rules, he said. You trust no one except me and Min-ho. You don't discuss family business with anyone. You don't ask questions about what you see or hear in this house. And if anyone approaches you about me or Seo Jin, you tell me immediately. Okay. I mean it, Miss Thompson. This isn't a game. People die in my world for small mistakes. I understand. He looked at me like he was trying to decide if I really did. Call me Maya, I said suddenly. He raised an eyebrow. If I'm part of the family, you can't keep calling me Miss Thompson. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. Maya, he said, testing the name. Then you call me Junwoo. Is that appropriate? In this house, I decide what's appropriate. He walked to the door, then paused. She's lucky to have you, he said without turning around. Then he left. I stood there in the silence, my heart racing. I'd just committed to something I didn't fully understand. Agreed to be part of a world that operated on rules I'd never learned. But when I looked at Seo Jin, still sleeping peacefully, I knew I'd made the right choice, even if it destroyed me. The second week brought changes. Seo Jin started eating more. Not a lot, but enough. She still wouldn't sit in the dining room, so I had meals brought to the suite. We'd eat together on the floor like a picnic. She'd watch me take each bite before taking her own, like she was making sure I wasn't going anywhere. She started playing with her toys. Tentatively at first, I'd hand her a stuffed animal and she'd hold it, stare at it, then set it down. But slowly she started doing more, stacking blocks, turning pages in books. Pushing a toy car across the floor, she still didn't speak, but she started making sounds. Small hums when she was content, soft sighs when she was tired. Once, when I sang to her, she made a sound like she was trying to hum along. It felt like watching something frozen start to thaw. But the house itself grew colder. I started noticing things. Men arriving at odd hours. Late-night meetings in rooms I wasn't allowed to enter. Conversations in rapid Korean that stopped when I walked by. Junwoo disappearing for days at a time, returning looking harder. Sharper. I noticed the security increasing. More guards, new cameras. Cars with tinted windows parked outside. I noticed the staff becoming more tense, moving faster, speaking less. Something was happening. And everyone knew except me. One night I was putting Seo Jin to bed, actually in her bed this time, a small victory when I heard shouting from downstairs. Korean, angry, multiple voices. Seo Jin's eyes went wide with fear. I immediately started singing to her softly, covering the sound. She gripped my hand tightly. The shouting continued. Then a crash, something breaking. Then silence. Footsteps on the stairs, fast, heavy. I pulled Seojin closer. The footsteps passed our door and continued down the hall. A door slammed. Seojin was shaking. "It's okay," I whispered. "You're safe, I've got you." I stayed with her until she fell asleep, my heart hammering the entire time. When I finally crept out of her room, Minho was standing in the hallway. "Is she asleep?" he asked quietly in English. I nodded. "Good." He gestured for me to follow him. We went downstairs to Junwoo's study. The door was open. Inside, Junwoo stood by the window, his back to us. His shoulders were tense. One hand was clenched at his side. "Mr. Han," Minho said quietly. Junwoo turned. His face was a mask, but his eyes were blazing. "Leave us," he said to Minho. Minho bowed and left, closing the door. Junwoo looked at me, really looked at me, like he was assessing something. "You heard," he said, not a question. "Some of it. Seojin heard it too." She was scared. His jaw tightened. "I apologize. That shouldn't have happened where she could hear." "What's going on?" He walked to his desk and poured himself a drink. Whiskey, neat. He downed it in one swallow. "Business complications," he said finally. "That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting." I crossed my arms. "You said if there were problems, I should come to you. Well, Seojin being terrified in her own home is a problem." He set the glass down carefully. "Watch your tone." "Or what?" The words came out before I could stop them. "You'll fire me, send me away. We both know Seojin won't let you." Silence. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. Cold, sharp. "You have more spine than I thought. I have a child to protect. She's my child. Then act like it." I took a step forward. "She's finally starting to heal, and then she hears her father shouting and things breaking downstairs. Do you know what that does to a traumatized child?" His expression hardened. "Don't presume to tell me about my daughter. Someone needs to." The air between us crackled with tension. Then he sighed. The anger drained from his face, leaving only exhaustion. "You're right," he said quietly. "That was careless. It won't happen again." "What's happening, Junwoo?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he walked to the window. "There's a power struggle," he said finally. "Between families. Territory disputes. Money, the usual." He paused. "Someone's trying to move in on our business, trying to weaken us." "Is it dangerous?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "It's always dangerous. For Seojin, I have security, protection, no one will touch her. But they might try." He didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. "I need to know," I said quietly. "If I'm going to keep her safe, I need to know what I'm protecting her from." He turned to face me. "You're protecting her from the world I built, from the choices I've made, from the enemies I've created. Then maybe, don't." His voice was hard. "Don't suggest I leave this life, that I walk away. It doesn't work like that. I'm in too deep." "We all are." "I wasn't going to say that." "Then what?" "I was going to ask what you need me to do." He stared at me. "What?" "To keep her safe. What do you need me to do?" Something shifted in his expression. Surprise. Then something that looked almost like respect. "Stay close to her. Don't leave the grounds without telling me. If anything feels wrong, if anyone approaches you, if you see anything unusual, tell me immediately." "Okay." "I'm serious, Maya. These people don't play by rules. They'll use anything, anyone." "I understand." He walked closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to look at him. "Do you?" His voice was quiet, dangerous. "Do you understand what it means to be in my world? What happens to people who betray me? What I'm capable of?" My heart was racing, but I held his gaze. "Yes, I don't think you do." He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face. The gesture was gentle, but his eyes were hard. "I've killed people, Maya, ordered deaths, ruined lives. I've done things that would make you run screaming from this house. Then why are you telling me? Because you need to know who you're trusting with my daughter. You're not as scary as you think you are." His eyebrows rose. "No, no," I took a breath. "Because I've seen you with her. I've seen how you look at her when you think no one's watching. How you check on her every night when she's asleep. How your hands shake when you try to touch her and she pulls away." His expression went carefully blank. "You're not a monster," I said quietly. "You're just a father who's terrified of losing his daughter the same way he lost his wife." Silence stretched between us. Then he stepped back. "Get some rest," he said, his voice neutral. Tomorrow, I want you and Seo-jin to stay in the West Wing. Don't go to the garden, don't go downstairs. Why? Because I have a meeting. And it's better if you're not visible. Who's coming? People who would see you and Seo-jin as leverage. The way he said it made my blood run cold. Okay, I whispered. He nodded. Good night, Maya. Good night. I left his study and went back upstairs. I checked on Seo-jin, still sleeping, then went to my own room. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I'd got myself into something far more dangerous than I'd realized. But the terrifying part wasn't the danger. It was that I didn't want to leave. The next day, I kept Seo-jin in the West Wing as instructed. We played in the sitting room, read books. She was clingy, like she could sense my tension. Around noon, I heard cars arriving. Multiple vehicles, doors slamming, voices. I moved away from the windows and kept Seo-jin distracted with toys. Hours passed. The house was silent except for the muffled sound of voices from somewhere below. I couldn't make out words, just tones. Serious, tense. Seo-jin fell asleep in my lap around 2. I sat there holding her, too afraid to move, too afraid to even breathe too loud. At 4, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Fast, urgent. My door burst open. Minho stood there, his face tight. Come with me, now. What's wrong? Now. I scooped up Seo-jin and she woke with a start. Her eyes went wide with fear. Minho led us down the hallway to a part of the house I'd never been to. He opened a door to reveal a small room. No windows. Just a bed and a chair. Stay here, he said. Don't come out until I come get you. What's happening? Please, Miss Thompson, just trust me. He closed the door. I heard a lock click. Seo-jin started to cry silently, tears streaming down her face. I held her close, my heart pounding. It's okay, I whispered. We're okay, we're safe. But I didn't know if that was true. We stayed in that room for 3 hours. I couldn't hear anything. No voices, no movement, just silence. Seo-jin cried herself into exhaustion and fell asleep in my arms again. I sat on the bed, holding her, waiting. Finally, I heard the lock click. The door opened. Junwoo stood there. His shirt was untucked, his hair disheveled. There was blood on his collar. Are you hurt? I asked immediately. It's not mine. His voice was flat. Come, it's over. What's over? The meeting. He led us back through the house. I noticed things as we passed, a broken vase. Scuff marks on the floor. A door slightly ajar showing a room in disarray. We went back to the suite. Junwoo followed us inside and closed the door. He sat down heavily on the couch, his head in his hands. I put Seo-jin in her bed, finally, and came back to the sitting room. Do you want to talk about it? I asked quietly. No. Do you want me to leave you alone? No. I sat down in the chair across from him, waited. After a long moment, he looked up. They wanted Seo-jin, he said quietly. My blood turned to ice. What? Not to hurt her, to take her, as insurance, to make sure I cooperated with their plans. Jesus Christ. I refused. His voice was hard. Obviously, and they didn't take it well. The blood, they sent a message. I sent one back. I didn't ask what that meant. It's handled, he said. For now, but this is what I meant, Maya. This is my world. People who would take a child to get what they want. I felt sick. Are we safe now? Safer. They won't try that again. I made sure of it. The way he said it left no room for questions. He stood up. I need to clean up, but I wanted you to know, in case you want to reconsider. Reconsider what? Being here. Being part of this. I looked at the door to Seo-jin's room, then back at him. I'm not leaving her, I said firmly, even knowing what I just told you. Especially knowing that. He stared at me for a long moment. You're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both. The corner of his mouth twitched. He walked to the door, then paused. Thank you for staying calm, for keeping her safe. That's my job. No, he said quietly. It's more than that, and we both know it. Then he left. I sat there in the silence, my hands shaking. Someone had tried to take Seo-jin, and Junwoo had stopped them, with blood. I should have been terrified. I should have packed my things and run. But all I could think about was that little girl sleeping in the next room, who'd finally started to smile again, who'd called me Mama, and I realized that I would do anything to protect her, even if it meant staying in a world that could destroy me. The 3rd week brought an uneasy peace. The extra security remained. The guards doubled. but the house settled into a rhythm again. Seo-jin continued to improve. She started eating 3 meals a day, started sleeping through the night, sometimes in her own bed if I stayed until she fell asleep, started exploring more of the house with me. And she started trying to speak, not words, but sounds, babbles, like she was remembering how her voice worked. One morning, we were in the garden guards watching from a distance, and she pointed at a bird. "Bah," she said, my breath caught. "Bird," I said softly. "That's right, bird." "Bah," she repeated. I knelt down and pulled her into a hug. She giggled, actually giggled. The sound was like sunlight. When we went back inside, Junwoo was waiting in the foyer. He'd been away for 2 days on business. He looked tired, but his eyes lit up when he saw us. Seo-jin saw him and paused. Then, slowly, she walked over to him. My heart stopped. She'd never approached him willingly. Junwoo knelt down, bringing himself to her level. She stood in front of him, studying his face. Then she reached out and touched his cheek with her small hand. He froze. "Bah," she said. He frowned. "What?" "She's trying to say words," I explained quietly. "She said bo for bird today." His eyes widened. Seo-jin patted his cheek again. "Appa!" The word was soft, tentative but clear. "Appa, Daddy." Junwoo's face crumpled. He pulled her into his arms and held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. She didn't pull away. She wrapped her small arms around his neck and held on. I saw tears running down his face. I quietly left them alone. That night, after Seo-jin was asleep, Junwoo came to the suite again. He looked different. Lighter, like a weight had been lifted. "She called me Appa," he said, wonder in his voice. "I heard. She hasn't done that since before her mother died." He sat down on the couch. "Thank you for giving her back to me. I didn't do anything. You did everything." He looked at me. "You brought her back from wherever she'd gone. You made her feel safe again. You—" He stopped, shook his head. "What?" I asked. "You've become important. To her. To this family." The way he said it made something flutter in my chest. "She's important to me too," I said quietly. "I can see that." He leaned back. "That's why I need to tell you something." The seriousness in his tone made me nervous. "What is it?" "My wife," he said slowly. "Seo-jin's mother. Her name was Jaewon, and she was the only woman I've ever loved." I didn't know what to say to that. She was good, pure, nothing like me. She saw the best in people. Believed in second chances. He smiled sadly. "She was too good for my world, but she stayed anyway because she loved me." He paused. "The accident wasn't an accident," he said quietly. My blood ran cold. It was meant for me. Someone tampered with the brakes. I was supposed to be driving that car, but I had a meeting, so she took Seo-jin to her mother's house instead. Oh my God, the guilt of that. He closed his eyes. It destroys me every day. Knowing she died because of me. Knowing Seo-jin saw it because of my choices. "It's not your fault," I said firmly. "Yes," he said quietly. "It is." Silence. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. He opened his eyes and looked at me. "Because I see how Seo-jin looks at you. How she started calling you mama. And I need you to understand that if you ever become more than just her nanny, you'll be putting yourself in danger." My heart was pounding. "I'm not suggesting anything," he said quickly. "I'm just saying that everyone close to me becomes a target, and I can't. I won't do that to someone else. I won't lose someone else." He stopped himself. The air between us felt electric. "I care about you," he said finally. "Both of you, and that's dangerous." "I'm not afraid," I said. "You should be." "Maybe," I leaned forward. "But I'm not leaving, not Seo-jin." And not, I couldn't finish the sentence. Because I didn't know what we were, but I felt it. The pull, the connection, the way his eyes softened when he looked at me, the way my heart raced when he was near. This was dangerous in more ways than one. "We can't," he said quietly. "I can't put you at risk like that." "Too late," I whispered. "I'm already at risk just by being here." He stood up abruptly. "This was a mistake. I shouldn't have said anything. Junwoo, good night, Maya." He left quickly, the door closing behind him with a soft click. I sat there in the silence, my chest tight, because I'd realized something terrifying. I was falling for him. For the dangerous, broken Mafia boss who'd given me a job because his daughter called me mama. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. The 4th week changed everything. Seo-jin was speaking more, short words. Mama, most often. Appa for Junwoo. Ba for bird. Baba for bottle. She was coming back to life piece by piece. And with each piece, the house felt less like a fortress and more like a home. But I noticed something else changing too. The way Junwoo looked at me. He started joining us for meals. At first just dinner. Then breakfast too. He'd sit with Seo-jin and watch her eat, asking me questions about her day. What she'd played with. What words she'd tried to say, if she'd smiled. He started staying longer. After Seo-jin went to bed, we'd talk. About everything. His childhood. His rise to power. The mistakes he'd made. The people he'd lost. I told him about my life too. Growing up in Chicago, my family, my dreams of finishing school. The loneliness of being in a foreign country with no safety net. He listened like every word mattered. And slowly, the distance between us shrank. One night, Seo-jin had a nightmare. She woke up screaming. The first sound louder than a whisper she'd made in weeks. I ran to her room and found her sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face. Mama, she sobbed. Mama, I pulled her into my arms. I'm here, you're safe. The door burst open. Junwoo stood there in pajama pants and nothing else, looking terrified. What happened? Nightmare, I said quietly, rocking Seo-jin. She's okay. He came closer. Seo-jin, she turned her head toward him, still crying. Appa, he knelt beside the bed and stroked her hair. I'm here too. We're both here. She reached out for him and he took her hand. We stayed like that for a long time, the three of us, until her tears slowed and her breathing evened out. Stay, she whispered, looking at both of us. Stay, I looked at Junwoo. He looked at me. Okay, I said softly. We'll stay. I lay down with her in the middle. She curled against me. I thought Junwoo would leave, but instead he lay down on the other side. The bed was barely big enough for three, but we made it work. Seo-jin sighed contentedly and fell asleep between us. I was hyper-aware of Junwoo's presence, of his breathing, of his hand resting near Seo-jin's, close enough that our fingers almost touched. Thank you, he whispered in the darkness. For what? For making her feel safe enough to call for us. She called for you too, because you taught her it was okay to need people again. I didn't know what to say to that. Maya, he said quietly. Yes, I meant what I said. This is dangerous. Being close to me, being part of this. I know, but I can't seem to stay away from you. My heart stopped. I've tried, he continued. I've tried to keep my distance, to remember that you're just here for Seo-jin. But every day I see you with her. I see how much you care, how you've sacrificed for us, and he stopped. You what? I whispered. Silence. Then his hand moved. His fingers found mine, interlaced with them. I don't want to lose you too, he said quietly. You won't. You can't promise that. Neither can you, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he squeezed my hand. We fell asleep like that, the three of us. A broken family learning to be whole again. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the window. Seo-jin was still asleep between us, snoring softly. Junwoo was awake, watching her with an expression I couldn't name. Good morning, I whispered. He looked at me. Morning, did you sleep? A little, he smiled slightly. More than usual. Seo-jin stirred, her eyes opened. She saw both of us and smiled. Mama, Appa. My chest tightened. Good morning, sweetheart, I said. Good, she repeated. Good morning. Junwoo's eyes widened. She said good morning. She did. He reached over and stroked her cheek. Good morning, Seo-jin. She giggled and grabbed his hand, then reached for mine, held both of us. Family, she said carefully, family. I looked at Junwoo. He was staring at his daughter with tears in his eyes. Yes, he said hoarsely. Family. And for the first time since I'd entered this house, I felt like I belonged. But peace never lasts in the dark. That afternoon, while Seo-jin was napping, Min-ho came to find me. His face was grim. Mr. Han wants to see you. Now. The tone made my stomach drop. I followed him to Junwoo's study. Inside, Junwoo stood by the window, his back rigid. Another man sat in one of the chairs. Older, expensive suit, cold eyes. Maya, Junwoo said without turning. This is Mr. Park. He represents the Song family. The Song family, even I'd heard whispers about them. One of the big three. Rivals. Miss Thompson, Mr. Park said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I've heard interesting things about you. Have you? Yes, Hans knew. What are you exactly? Nanny, guardian, something more? I glanced at Junwoo. His jaw was tight. I take care of his daughter, I said carefully. How noble. Mr. Park stood. I came here to deliver a message to Mr. Han, but seeing you, I realize the message is better delivered to both of you. What message? I asked. That Han's protection only extends so far, that new pieces on the board are vulnerable, that accidents happen. The threat was clear. Get out, Junwoo said quietly. I'm merely pointing out realities. Get out. Mr. Park smiled. Of course. I'll see myself out. He walked to the door, then paused. Miss Thompson, a word of advice. In our world, attachments are weaknesses, and weaknesses get exploited. He left. The door closed. Junwoo stood frozen by the window. He threatened me, I said, my voice shaking. Yes, because of us, because they see me as your weakness. Yes, I walked over to him. What do we do? He turned to face me. His expression was anguished. I end this, he said. Once and for all. What does that mean? It means I'm done playing defense, done waiting for them to make moves, done letting people threaten what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice sent shivers down my spine. What are you going to do? What I should have done months ago. He pulled out his phone and made a call, spoke in rapid Korean, gave orders. When he hung up, he looked at me. You and CEO Jin are leaving, tonight. Minho will take you to a safe house outside the city. What? No, I'm not. This isn't negotiable, Maya. They've made you a target. I won't risk you. And what about you? I'll handle this. By doing what? Starting a war, if that's what it takes. I grabbed his arm. Junwoo, listen to yourself. This is insane. No, what's insane is letting them think they can threaten my family and get away with it. Family, he'd said it. Please, I whispered. Don't do something you can't take back. I'm already past that point. He cupped my face with both hands. But I need to know you're safe. That Seojin is safe. I can't do what needs to be done if I'm worried about you. Then don't do it. I have to. Why? Because I love you. The words hung in the air between us. What? I breathed. I love you, he said again. I've been fighting it, denying it, but I can't anymore, and that's why you have to go. Because if they hurt you to hurt me, I'll burn this entire city to the ground. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Junwoo! He kissed me, hard, desperate, like he was trying to memorize the feel of me. I kissed him back just as desperately. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. Go, he whispered against my lips. Please, for me, for Seojin, go. Tears ran down my face. What if you don't come back? I will. Promise me. He rested his forehead against mine. I promise. I wanted to believe him, but I'd learned enough about his world to know that promises meant nothing when bullets started flying. 3 hours later, Minho packed us into an armored car. Seojin was confused. Where? She asked. On an adventure, I said, forcing a smile. Just for a little while. Appa, he'll come find us soon. She frowned but didn't argue. As we drove away from the estate, I looked back through the window. Junwoo stood at the entrance, watching us leave. Even from a distance, I could see the determination in his posture. He was going to war, and I had no idea if he'd survive it. The safe house was small, remote, surrounded by woods and guarded by men I didn't recognize. Minho stayed with us, silent, vigilant. Days passed. No word from Junwoo. I tried calling. The phone went straight to voicemail. Seojin asked for her Appa constantly. I didn't know what to tell her. On the third day, I heard gunfire in the distance. Minho immediately moved us to an interior room with no windows. What's happening? I asked. They found us, he said grimly. How? Does it matter? He loaded his gun. Stay here, don't open this door for anyone but me or Mr. Han. Minho, lock it now, he left. I locked the door and pulled Seojin into my arms. She was crying, scared by the sounds outside. More gunfire, closer now, shouting, in Korean, an explosion that shook the walls. I held Seojin tighter, my heart racing. This was it. This was how we died. Because I'd fallen in love with a man whose world was built on blood. Then silence. Absolute silence. I waited, barely breathing. Footsteps approached the door, a knock. Maya, Junwoo's voice. I unlocked the door and threw it open. He stood there covered in blood and dirt, but alive. You came, I whispered. I promised. I threw my arms around him. He held me tight. Seojin saw him and started crying. Appa! He pulled away from me and scooped her up, holding her close. I'm here, I'm here. Is it over? I asked. He looked at me over Seojin's head. Yes, he said. It's over. But the look in his eyes told me he'd paid a price. We returned to the estate the next day. Everything looked the same on the surface. But I noticed things, new guards, different faces. The absence of certain people I'd seen before. I didn't ask questions. That night after Seojin was asleep, I found Junwoo in his study. He was staring at the wall, a drink in his hand. Hey, I said softly. He looked up. Hey, I walked over and sat beside him. Do you want to talk about it? No. Okay. We sat in silence. I did things, he said finally. Things I'm not proud of. Things you'd hate me for if you knew. I don't think I could hate you. You should. He looked at me. The man you think I am, that's not who I really am, Maya. I'm worse, much worse. I know what you are. No, you don't. You see the parts I let you see. The father, the man trying to be better, but that's not all I am. I took his hand. Then show me, all of you. He pulled away. If I do that, you'll leave. Try me. He stood up and poured another drink. The Song family, I didn't just defeat them, I destroyed them. Their businesses, their assets. Their people. He downed the drink. I killed Mr. Park myself, put a bullet in his head while he begged for mercy. He waited for my reaction. I didn't move. I've done worse, he continued. I've tortured people for information, ordered hits on entire families. I've built my empire on the bones of everyone who stood in my way. I know. Then why are you still here? Because none of that changes how you are with Seojin. How you are with me. It should. Maybe. I stood up and walked to him. But it doesn't. He stared at me. You're either an angel or insane. Probably both. I reached up and touched his face. I'm not asking you to be perfect, Junwoo. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm just asking you to let me stay. Why? His voice cracked. Why would you want to stay in this darkness? Because you're in it, and so is Seojin, and I love you both too much to leave. His eyes widened. You love me. Yes. I know it's stupid. I know it's dangerous, but I do. He pulled me close and kissed me. Slower this time, deeper. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not, he laughed, actually laughed. But you're stuck with me anyway, I said. Thank God for that. We stood there in the quiet, two broken people who'd found something whole in each other, and for the first time in months, the future didn't feel terrifying. It felt possible. 6 months later. Seojin was speaking in full sentences, laughing, playing, thriving. She called me Mama without hesitation now, called Junwoo Appa. We'd become the family she needed. The house felt different too, warmer. Staff smiled occasionally. Guards relaxed their shoulders. The war with the Song family had ended with the hands solidifying their power. Junwoo had eliminated threats and built new alliances. The city's underworld was quieter now, still dangerous, but stable. I'd finished my degree online. Junwoo had paid for everything despite my protests. Consider it a wedding gift, he'd said. We weren't married yet, but the ring on my finger suggested it was coming. One evening, we were in the garden, our family of 3. Seojin was chasing butterflies. Junwoo and I watched from a bench. She's happy, he said quietly. She is. Because of you. Because of us, I corrected. He pulled me closer. I never thought I'd have this again, a family, love. Peace. It's not exactly peace, I said with a smile. You still run a criminal empire. Details. He kissed my temple. The point is I'm happy, truly happy, and I didn't think that was possible after Jaiwan. I stiffened slightly at her name. He noticed. I'll always love her. You know that. I know, but I love you too, differently but just as deeply. He turned to face me. You saved us, Maya, both of us. You saved yourselves, I just helped. Seojin ran over, holding a flower. Mama. Look, I took it. It's beautiful, sweetheart. She smiled and ran off again. Junwoo watched her with soft eyes, then looked at me. Marry me, he said. I laughed. You already proposed, I already said yes. I know, but I want to ask again. Every day for the rest of our lives. You're ridiculous. Is that a no? I kissed him. It's a yes, always yes. He smiled against my lips. Good. We sat there as the sun set, watching Seojin play. I'd come to this house a year ago as a desperate woman taking a job she didn't understand. Now I was part of something I'd never expected. A family built on blood and danger and second chances. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was ours, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Except, notice how happiness in this world always comes with a cost, how every peaceful moment is borrowed. I should have remembered that. 3 weeks before the wedding. I was helping Seojin with her flower girl dress when Minho appeared at the door. His face was pale. Miss Thompson, Mr. Han needs you, now. Something in his tone made my blood run cold. I followed him downstairs. Police officers filled the foyer, men in suits. Detectives. Junwoo stood in the center, his hands behind his back, handcuffs. What's happening? I demanded. One of the men stepped forward. Are you Maya Thompson? Yes. You're under arrest as an accessory to multiple homicides, racketeering, and organized crime activities. The world tilted. What? No. I didn't. You've been living with and working for Han Junwoo, a known crime boss. You've aided and abetted. I'm a nanny. I take care of his daughter. You're a co-conspirator. You have the right to remain silent. Junwoo. I looked at him desperately. His face was blank, controlled, but his eyes were screaming. Don't say anything, he said calmly. Not a word, lawyer only. They put handcuffs on me too. Where's Seojin? I asked frantically. Child Protective Services is taking custody, one of the officers said. No, she needs me. She'll be terrified. You should have thought of that before getting involved with a criminal. They led us both outside, separate cars. As they pushed me into the back seat, I saw Seojin in a window upstairs. She was screaming. Silent behind the glass, but I could see her mouth forming the word. Mama, Mama! A woman tried to hold her back, but she fought. I tried to go to her, but hands held me. Seojin, I screamed. They closed the car door. As we drove away, I looked back. Seojin was pounding on the window, still screaming for me, and I couldn't help her. That image would haunt me for the rest of my life. The interrogation room was cold. They kept me there for 6 hours before a lawyer arrived. Not my lawyer. Junwoo's, a woman in her 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. Don't say anything, she said immediately. They have nothing. This is intimidation. They arrested me for crimes I didn't commit. You lived in his house. We're in a relationship with him. They're trying to pressure him through you. She leaned forward. But here's what you need to understand. If they had real evidence, they'd charge you. They haven't. Which means this is theater. What about Seojin? She's with CPS temporarily. We're fighting it. I need to see her. You can't, not while you're under investigation. She needs me. She'll think I abandoned her, just like her mother. My voice broke. The lawyer's expression softened slightly. I know. But if you fight this wrong, you'll never see her again, so you let us handle it legally. How long? As long as it takes. I was released 12 hours later. No charges filed. Just a warning to stay available for further questioning. I went straight to the estate. Guards stopped me at the gate. I'm sorry, Miss Thompson, you're not authorized. Authorized, I live here. Not anymore, Mr. Han's orders. My stomach dropped. What? He said you're not to return. He'll have your things sent. That's insane, I need to see him. Mr. Han is not seeing anyone. Then I need to see Seojin. She's not here. I wanted to scream, to fight, to break down that gate and storm inside. But I couldn't. I had no power here, I never had. I was just the nanny who'd fallen in love with the wrong man. And now I'd lost everything. I stayed in a hotel for 3 days. No word from Junwoo, no calls, nothing. My things arrived on the 4th day, everything I'd brought with me, everything I'd accumulated. But no note, no explanation. I tried calling, blocked. I tried going to the estate again. Denied entry, I was erased. On the 5th day, the lawyer called. We need to talk, she said. We met at her office. She looked grim. The charges against Mr. Han are serious, she said. Multiple murders, racketeering, money laundering, they have witnesses, evidence. This isn't going away. What does this mean? It means he's likely going to prison for a very long time. The air left my lungs. And Seojin will become a ward of the state. Mr. Han has no family willing to take her. His associates are all implicated. And you, she paused, you're not legally connected to her. You have no custody rights. But she needs me. I know, but the law doesn't care. I felt like I was drowning. There has to be something. There is one option. She pulled out papers. Mr. Han has drafted guardianship papers, naming you as Seojin's legal guardian in the event of his incarceration. Hope flared. So I can get her back, if he signs them, and if CPS approves, and if you're cleared of any criminal involvement. She looked at me seriously. That's a lot of ifs. I'll do whatever it takes. Even if it means testifying against him. I froze. What? The prosecution wants leverage. If you testify about what you witnessed in that house, the people who came and went, the conversations you overheard, they'll drop any potential charges against you and support your guardianship petition. You want me to betray him. I want you to save that little girl. I stood up. I can't. Maya, I can't betray him. Not after everything. Then you lose her. The lawyer's voice was hard. CPS will put her in foster care. She'll be moved around, traumatized again. Everything you've worked for will be destroyed. Is your loyalty to Han worth that? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say I'd never betray him. But all I could see was Seojin's face, screaming for me behind that window. I need to think, I whispered. You have 24 hours. After that, the offer expires. I left her office feeling like I was being torn in half. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. Maya, Junwoo's voice. I started crying immediately. Where are you? I can't tell you, but I needed to hear your voice. They want me to testify against you. Silence. I know, he said finally. I won't do it. Yes, you will. Junwoo, listen to me. His voice was firm. I'm going to prison, that's inevitable. The evidence is solid. I'm not getting out of this. We can fight it. No, we can't. He paused. But Seojin can still have a future with you. Not if I betray you. It's not betrayal, it's survival. His voice softened. I need her safe, Maya. I need her with someone who loves her, and that's you. I can't. You have to, for her, please. I was sobbing now. I don't want to lose you. You're not losing me. I'll always be with you, both of you. But this is the only way. There has to be another. There isn't. He took a shaky breath. I love you so fucking much, and that's why I'm asking you to do this. Because loving me can't cost you everything. It can't cost her everything. Junwoo, testify, get Seojin back, give her the life she deserves. What about you? I'll survive, I always do. A pause. But knowing you're both out there, safe and together. That's all I need. I don't want to say goodbye. Then don't, this isn't goodbye, it's see you later. I wanted to believe him. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, both of you, always. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence, my heart shattered, and I made the hardest decision of my life. The testimony took 3 days. I told them everything, not the violence, not the details that would add years to his sentence, but enough. Enough about the people who came to the house, the conversations I'd overheard, the meetings, the money, enough to give them what they needed. Junwoo's lawyer was brilliant. She made sure I only shared what was necessary, nothing more. The prosecution got their cooperating witness. The charges against me were dropped, and the guardianship papers were approved. 2 weeks later, I stood outside a foster home in Gangnam. A caseworker brought Seojin out. She looked smaller, thinner. Her eyes were empty again, like they'd been when I first met her. When she saw me, she froze. Then she screamed. Mama! She ran to me, and I caught her in my arms. She wrapped herself around me like she'd never let go. I'm here, I sobbed. I'm here. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. She was crying too, huge, gasping sobs. You left me. I didn't want to, I promise. I tried to come back. Don't leave again, please don't leave. Never, I promise. Never again. I held her as we both cried. The caseworker had tears in her eyes too. She's been asking for you every day. I looked up. Can I take her home? Yes, all the papers are signed. She's yours. Mine, not legally through birth, but through love, through choice. I carried her to the car and buckled her in. Where's Appa? She asked quietly. I'd been dreading that question. Appa had to go away for a while, I said carefully, but he loves you so much. And he wanted me to take care of you. When will he come back? I don't know, sweetheart. She was quiet for a moment, then she took my hand. It's okay, she said, as long as you stay. My heart broke and healed at the same time. I'll always stay, I promised, and I meant it. We started over. New apartment. Smaller than the estate but warmer. No guards, no cold marble, just us. Seojin struggled at first. Nightmares, anxiety, fear that I'd disappear again. But slowly, she healed. She started preschool, made friends, smiled more. At night, she'd ask about her Appa. I'd tell her stories about him, the good parts, how much he loved her, how strong he was, how he'd done everything to keep her safe. I didn't tell her where he was. Not yet, she was too young to understand. 6 months after the testimony, I got a letter. Junwoo, from prison. My hands shook as I opened it. Maya, I heard you got her back. Thank you. Thank you for being strong enough to do what I couldn't. For choosing her over me. I'm okay. Prison is what I expected. I've made arrangements to ensure you're both taken care of financially. The lawyer will explain. Tell Seojin I love her. Tell her every day. And tell her that her Appa is proud of her. I don't know when I'll see you both again. My sentence is 25 years. I'll likely serve 15 with good behavior. 15 years, an eternity. But knowing you're out there, raising our daughter, giving her the life she deserves, that's enough. I love you, I'll always love you, don't wait for me. Live, be happy. That's all I want. I read the letter 3 times before I let myself cry. 15 years. Seojin would be 17 when he got out, almost grown. She wouldn't remember him the way he was, and he'd miss everything. Her childhood, her teenage years, her first day of school, her graduations, everything, because of his choices, because of his world. But also because he'd loved her enough to let me save her. That night I wrote back, Junwoo, I'm not going to tell you everything will be okay because I don't know if it will. But I can tell you this, Seojin is thriving, she's happy, she's safe. She talks about you constantly. I tell her stories, and she listens like they're the most important things in the world. I'm keeping you alive for her in the only way I know how. And I'm not moving on. I know you said to, but I can't. Because 15 years isn't forever. It's just time, and I'll wait. I love you, we both do. Maya, I sent the letter and tried to believe my own words. That 15 years was just time, that we could survive it, that love was enough. 5 years passed. Seojin was 7 now, smart, beautiful, strong. She knew her Appa was in prison. I'd told her when she turned 6. She'd cried, asked questions I didn't know how to answer. But she understood. In the way children do, that sometimes people we love make mistakes. And sometimes, those mistakes have big consequences. We visited him twice a year. It was all he was allowed. The first visit had destroyed me, seeing him behind glass, in prison clothes, looking older, harder. But his eyes had lit up when he saw Seojin. She'd pressed her hand against the glass. He'd pressed his on the other side. Hi, Appa, she'd said quietly. Hi, sweetheart, you've gotten so big. Mama says you're proud of me. I am so proud. They'd talked for the full 30 minutes. About school, about her friends, about the drawings she'd made for him. When it was time to go, she'd looked at me. Can we come back? In 6 months. That's too long. I know, baby, but it's the rules. She'd turned back to the glass. I love you, Appa. I love you too. So much. We'd left and she'd cried in the car, but she'd stayed strong, stronger than I'd been. Now, 5 years in, we'd found a rhythm. Life without him was hard, but we managed. I'd gone back to school, gotten my degree, started working as a counselor for at-risk youth, helping kids like Seojin had been, giving them what someone had given her. Hope. On the 5-year anniversary of Junwoo's incarceration, I took Seojin to visit. She was excited. She'd made him a card, drew a picture of the 3 of us together. When can Appa come home? She asked in the car. 10 more years, sweetheart. That's so long. I know. Will you still love him then? I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Yes. Will you? She nodded seriously. He's my Appa, I'll always love him. Then we'll wait together. Okay. At the prison, we went through security, sat in the visiting room. When Junwoo came in, my breath caught. He looked different. Older. More gray in his hair. lines around his eyes. But when he saw us, he smiled. That same smile I'd fallen in love with. Seo-jin ran to him and hugged him through the bars they were allowed for brief contact. Appa, Seo-jin-ah, he held her tight. You're so big, so beautiful. I'm 7 now. I know, Mama sent me pictures. He looked at me over her head. Hi, I said softly. Hi. So much passed between us in that single word. Pain, love, longing, regret. How are you? I asked. Better now. We talked for the full hour. Seo-jin dominated the conversation, telling him everything about her life, school, friends, the piano lessons she'd started, the stories I told her at bedtime. He listened like every word was precious, which it was. When time was up, Seo-jin hugged him again. I miss you, she said. I miss you too, but you're being so brave. I'm so proud. 10 more years? 10 more years. Then I come home. Promise, promise. She kissed his cheek through the bars, then ran back to me. Junwoo looked at me. Thank you, he mouthed. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I love you, I mouthed back. I love you too. Guards came to take him away. He looked back once, met my eyes, and I saw it there. The same certainty he'd had when he first hired me. We would survive this. We had to, for her, for us, for the family we'd built from broken pieces. 10 more years, just time, we could do this. We would do this. And when he finally came home, we'd be waiting, all 3 of us, together.